I'm Jay Slaycobb, and you're listening to Masterpiece Studio. For a show called Miss Scarlet and the Duke, it was long past time we spoke to the titular Duke.
This is not a good time.
Inspector Wellington, we've each been sent an explosive device, or rather, it would be explosive if it was rigged to go off, which thankfully it wasn't.
Come with me. Now.
William Wellington is suave, charming, and with the possible exception of Miss Eliza Scarlet, one of the finest young detectives Victorian London has to offer.
What do you want, William?
I've been sent home. Told to take a leave of absence. That idiot Hudson believes that because I was the target of a bomb threat, I may pose a danger to others at Scotland Yard. I mean, the man is a fool.
So what puzzle can Wellington not solve? Why, his own romantic inclinations, of course.
Can I really choose any ring, dearest? Anyone at all?
Anyone at all.
I hardly know where to begin. I feel like a child in a sweet shop.
May I ask, how long have you been engaged?
4 days, 3 hours, and 9 minutes.
Stuart Martin has played everything from Lorenzo de Medici to William the Duke Wellington, and he joins the podcast to unpack a busy season of Miss Scarlet and the Duke and look ahead to the upcoming 4th season of the series as well. And this week we are joined by Miss Scarlet and the Duke star Stuart Martin. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
You are in the thick of filming Series 4 of Miss Scarlet and the Duke and have now played the Duke for more than 3 series. Has your appreciation of William Wellington changed during that time?
Yeah, it's definitely, I always had a massive appreciation for him, for the character, for the writing, for the show. And I always, that's what really jumped off the page for me is the script and the way it's just written and the characters. But I think, with the sort of following seasons, luckily, as each season has gone on, I feel like I've really got to challenge myself and sort of challenge Duke, William, and how he is in certain situations. We've sort of got to flesh that out much more, and that's an amazing thing when you come back to each season to be able to come in and go, I'm so excited to be back because I get to challenge myself and I want to show this season, or I want to push this further this season, and you get to do that with William, and so that's a real gift,
You mentioned the scripts. I am curious, what was it about Rachel New's scripts that attracted you to the role initially when you signed on? What did jump off the page, as you say, at you?
Well, you read a lot of scripts, and it just by the end of that first page, I mean, it was literally halfway down that first page, I just remember going, wow, it was the sort of, well, it was that those cuts as you sort of came out, the fun of it, that very first episode with Scarlett, and those sort of one-liners of how you finish a scene. It was just so cool, it had this real cool edge to it, and that sort of was throughout. It always finished a scene with this great sort of fun, almost like sparring to it, or it always had an outline, and I loved that about it. And I think that makes it really different, and that's just continued all the way through. So that was the first page for me. So I was desperate. I read it and I was absolutely desperate to do it.
I mean, there is, I love period dramas, but there is a sort of energy and vitality to Miss Scarlet and the Duke that does make it different to other period dramas. And you yourself aren't a stranger to period dramas, though I have to say that seeing you in a bespoke suit is very different to your costume in, say, Jamestown. I mean, why do you think you keep getting cast in period dramas? Were you perhaps born in the wrong era?
I think it's because I can grow a beard and sometimes grow my hair long. But I remember for years when I sort of first came out of drama school, I showed back inside haircut, and it was like I was always playing soldiers and coppers, modern coppers in the 90s and the 90s. And I was going, why am I always playing soldiers? And that was because you got to show up back inside. And then the minute I grew my hair a bit longer, it was like, you can't play coppers anymore unless they're Victorian, unless they're period. But I think it's a really lovely thing to be able to. It just adds a whole other excitement to it for me to go to a different world, to jump back in time. I really love that. I love the history of it. I love learning about what's come before and around the time and where they were at socially and politically. That is like, I love the deep dive into that, to sort of explain why your character is how they are and how they react. I really like that sort of history lesson that I get to do.
I mean, what research did you do then when you were preparing for this? Were there specific texts that you turned to in order to sort of ground the character in what you're talking about in those sort of political or social or cultural kind of moments of the Victorian era?
Well, don't tell anyone, but if you're ever doing a Victorian show, there's a book called How to Be a Victorian. Genuinely. It's an amazing book. I can't remember who did it, but you're always looking for the writing around that time, or books around that time, and sometimes you just get absolute gold dust with a book or a writer, and it gives you everything you need, and there you have this sort of Bible, and it was that book, How to Be a Victorian, which, I mean, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I read it, but leading up to season 1, there's some amazing sort of things in there. There's amazing little bits of gold dust that show you where they were at, and how people acted, and the how they courted, and how every part of life is sort of in this book and done in quite a fun way, versus it being this 700-page heavy thing about the politics of the time. It's sort of absolute perfection of what you need as an actor. And I saw it sitting on the desk when we were back filming. It was in hair and makeup, because they have 50 books lying on the table as reference for styles and hair and makeup and costume and things. And there it was on the table, and I was like, oh, my old friend.
And it's hard for me to picture Wellington without his trademark bowler hat. What is your relationship with the hat? Do you love it or loathe it?
I love the bowler hat. And I remember when we first, when we came over to Ireland to film, Leonie, the amazing costume designer for season 1, Leonard Prendergast, sort of email me, and which is very, you send over your measurements, because they want to get a head start on that, especially with something like Duke's suit. They're all tailor made, and they're all beautifully made for us. So I sent off my measurements, and I remember it was me at home with my son, who probably would have been, he probably would have been 3 at the time. And I didn't have anyone to hold the measuring tape for certain tricky measurements. So, across the back, so you need an extra finger. So I got Joshy, my 3-year-old, to hold it on my head. And I sort of put off the measuring tape, and I was like, okay, whatever the measurement was, whatever inches, send that off. And then when we got over for the prep, the hat, tried the suit on, beautiful, a couple of little adjustments. And Leonie said, here's the bowler hat. This has been specifically bought from this beautiful hat store in Savile Row. It's incredibly expensive, beautiful piece that has been made specifically for your head. And I tried it on, and it was tiny. It was too small. And we were sort of starting shooting in about 5 days. And Leonie was going, I said, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She went, no, it's fine. How did you get the measurement wrong? I said, well, my son helped me. At what age is he? 3. She went, oh God. So they had to get another one couriered over, and it was there for the first day of filming.
Oh, amazing.
But yeah, so that was the start of my relationship with my bowler, with Duke's bowler, and I really love it.
Unlike the historical Duke, your Wellington, like you, Stuart, in real life is Scottish. How does his nationality define him in the south of England, in London in particular? Does it mark him instantly as an outsider?
Well, yeah, well, that's it's a great question. Originally, there was sort of no chat of him being Scottish. He was a detective at Scotland Yard, and the more we sort of, I was working on it. Me and Rach were chatting, and he just felt he just felt Scottish, and he just felt to me like he was Scottish, and Rach agreed. So that was kind of where that started, and it's then, you know, the whole backstory came into it of his growing up in Glasgow, and you know, that whole backstory. But it makes him, he is an outsider, as everyone, so many of the characters in Scarlet are, and he's has his own struggles, although he is a man at that time, so his struggles aren't as difficult as some, obviously. But yeah, it's nice that they are all outsiders and they all have something to struggle against. His you know, not just being Scottish, but his class, you know, and not his class doesn't allow him to rise through the ranks as he would like. So everyone's against these walls that they can't quite get through, and I think that keeps the drama there, and it keeps the fun there. You know, I think there's so many great, you want to see them struggle.
To me, the scenes where the Duke and Eliza verbally spar are my favorites in Miss Scarlet and the Duke. And you and Kate both deliver your remarks with such intense, biting scorn in a beautiful way.
Not much to show for a life of crime, is it?
Crime doesn't pay, Eliza. Actually, that's not true. There are many criminals who make more than I do.
Well, you have to save up if you're going to buy me that ring.
No doubt. Sure you have expensive tastes.
Actually, I don't. I don't like any of those rings. I prefer a simple, small stone. As long as it's in a gift box with a bow, I'd be happy. That was always my favourite part of Christmas. The unwrapping rather than the present itself.
I'll keep that in mind.
Now, Arabella, on the other hand, well, that's a different story.
Goodness only knows how much you'd have to spend if you were going to buy her a ring. You get the chance of a promotion, I really would take it.
How much fun are those very dialogue-heavy scenes to play?
They're great. They are. I remember, you know, from season 1, that just feeling like you would do line run, and you know, which comes sort of before a rehearsal. You run the lines, and then you start rehearsing normally on it, and then you might do it a few times, and then you start shooting. But on Scarlet, it always was the case that you would do the line run, and you were sort of already there with it. It was like by the end of that line run, it was like, okay, it's there, everything's in place. You know, it was so it was so sort of easy to flow into. It felt very natural, and you know, it's amazing. So our working relationship is really fun. It, you know, we it just feels very easy and very natural, and yeah, I love that sort of that bantering, that, like, you know, sword fighting, fencing, sparring thing, and especially when they're enjoying it. That's what I really love. You know, they aren't always. He can sometimes be on the back foot, or she can be on the back foot. But when one of them is really enjoying it, I think that's or both of them are really enjoying it, which they do. That's so much fun to play. It's so much fun to watch.
You play one of the titular leads in a detective series where your character, a police detective, rarely gets to solve the case. Do you ever wish that Wellington would beat Eliza to get the collar in the end?
I feel like what you're not seeing is William solving a lot of crimes. Yeah, it's just that where the camera's pointing, it tends to be Eliza that get those cases. No, it's sort of, we joke about it, but I love it. I think it makes total sense. He, you know, you're going, what's he up against? What is his struggle? Very early, I would sort of ask myself, well, what's he struggling with? Why is he so kind of overworked? And you go, well, actually, he's across so many cases, you know. He has numerous cases landing on his desk, and you know, because you go, well, why does he get it wrong? Why did he arrest that person? Why did he overlook this? And it just makes total sense to me that he's completely overworked. The whole department is overworked. They're expanding. They've got less good staff, less good coppers coming through. So I don't feel like he's kind of been thrown under the bus. I feel like that's just the way it was. He's a good copper. He's not a bad copper. You know, he's a really, really good detective. But the allowance of time and how what he has at his resources means that he can't get it right all the time.
I mean, I like to look at it that he has a 100% solve rate on cases that don't involve Eliza Scarlet.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's what it is. Yeah.
as you say, the camera's just pointing at him for these episodes.
Yeah. And we just see him not getting the collars there.
Before this next question, a brief word from our sponsors. Raymond James, a firm focused on transforming lives, businesses, and communities through tailored wealth management, banking, and capital markets solutions. Learn more at raymondjames.com. Series 3 introduced a new obstacle in William and Eliza getting together romantically in the form of Arabellacaster, who is herself a professional woman like Eliza. What does Arabella offer the Duke that Eliza doesn't or can't?
Herself, in a way. She's there, really. She's available, emotionally available, and that's kind of what he wants that from Eliza. I think it's safe to say, or certainly in my eyes. But we see that in season 3 that he wants Eliza. He wants to be around her and be with her, and it just never quite materializes. And Arabella fills that gap. She steps into that place, really. She is there for him and checks a lot of the boxes. She's also an incredibly strong, independent woman. She's not unlike Eliza, and I think Duke is attracted to that, to strong women, to strength and to their individual strength.
The Duke confronts Eliza in episode 5, saying that he feels like she's avoiding him, particularly after he's been away. She finally volunteers why she's acting so prickly, and she knows about his relationship with Arabella.
Eliza, I want to clear the air about Arabella.
Your private life is your own, William.
I know that you two haven't always seen eye to eye, but I don't want my friendship with Arabella to cause problems between us.
Nor do I. I will endeavour to make an effort with her. I feel sure we will become firm friends.
You're a terrible, terrible liar, but I appreciate the effort.
Given that history between the two of them, why doesn't the Duke tell Eliza himself? Is it a case of it being better to ask forgiveness rather than permission?
I love that phrase. I absolutely love that phrase. I remember the sort of playing of it, and again, there was a lot of different ways that you could play it, and I feel like it's probably quite a man thing, but it's probably just gone. It's all fine. I'm not really going to think about it. It's all good. So I'm not saying that he's not unaware of it, but it's only when it's brought up that he goes, yeah, actually, you're right. I should have said something, but I, in some way, I wasn't trying to pull the wool over your eyes. But yes, you're right. I should have sort of confronted it, and I should have had that difficult conversation, which is always a difficult conversation to have. You sort of, we know now in the modern world, you go, oh God, should I, whatever it might be to do with work or whatever, or to a friend, you go, this is the right thing to do. I should say this. I should let them know. And then you go, yeah, they probably don't care, or you sort of make excuses. And I feel like he hasn't not thought about it. He'll have sort of gone, well, what am I going to say? Like, she, from all I know, she's not interested in me. So why should I sort of go, oh, by the way? So yeah, I think I sort of believe that he, there was nothing malicious in that. It's just an awkward conversation. And what's amazing actually about that conversation is, as we see, we get this amazing thing where they kind of, I love those moments when they really open up to each other and they're really honest with each other. To get to see that in them is amazing, and you get to sort of see 1 and 2, and you get to see a couple of times in 3, and we get to see that real honesty again in season 4, and that is a really lovely thing to see. They don't bat it off, they don't try and spar or joke their way out of it. I really love that moment when they just both stop and they're very honest and they're very human with each other.
And I love the scene because it is incredibly sad on both sides. We get the sense here that things could shift in their dynamic because of this moment and how they play it. And each one is so sort of tentative about what they're asking and what they are asking for. It's a beautiful moment between them.
Well, it is, and it's that thing I remember going back to How to Be a Victorian. But there was so much about, I remember reading about, there was certain rules of the time, and there was rules around obviously men and women and the greetings and touching. So the idea of breaking that space, touching hands, these sorts of moments, you sort of go, they're both rule breakers, but you also have to know the rules and when to break them. And I think it's great, that sort of reserved quality we have to, it's not quite reserved, but you have to remember that they are, a Victorian unmarried couple. They're not, there's rules. So I love that, being able to be withheld. And then the moments when they sort of forget the rules, they're rule breakers. We want to see rule breakers. So those moments are very exciting, and they're sort of, they should be held back. We see one in season 1 at the funeral where you go, well, he wouldn't touch her cheek at her father's funeral. But then you go, well, this is a place where I want to break that rule, and I want to sort of slightly to be a rule breaker in that moment. And because it's so few times that you get to see that, I think it can be a little bit, it reads a lot more.
There's an ease to the Duke's domestic scenes with Arabella as he drinks whiskey with her at the end of the day and talks endlessly about how infuriating Eliza is. Does he not see that even sat here with this other woman, Eliza is still the star around which William orbits?
Yeah, I like to think, I really, one of the things coming into season 3, or certainly with that relationship, was I wanted it to be really easy, and to see that in some ways Duke is an accomplished, I don't want to say an accomplished lover, sorry, but he's been here before. He's not, because we see him being uncomfortable, or that's not the right word, but we see him being more withheld with Eliza, and I wanted to see him being like, oh, that is just with Eliza, because he's being totally respectful to her space and to her headspace and to her wants. But I wanted to see with Arabella just this ease. You just go, oh, he's comfortable in that space. And I think, yeah, with the one where he's going on about, she is just in his head. Eliza's just in his head, because Arabella calls him out on at the end of season 3, which is one of the best scenes I have read. She calls him out on it, but actually throughout, yeah, he's sort of, I don't think he's maliciously playing a game in his head. He's not thinking about it too much, but Eliza is just in his head. So he doesn't think anything wrong of it. He's not thinking, I'm going to not speak about her, or I am going to speak about her. They just spend a lot of time together, and he hasn't thought anything of sort of saying it.
I mean, in some ways, William and Arabella are suited for each other. They both have careers in different industries. They get along. They don't have the friction of Eliza and William. I mean, if Eliza weren't in the picture, could you envision a future where William and Arabella could be quite happy together?
Yeah, I think completely. Yeah, that if Eliza wasn't in the picture, he wouldn't even think about it. He's really fond of Arabella. He really likes her, and he tries to not be swayed by Eliza. And I think in some ways he is, but with Eliza in the picture, or Eliza, the fact that she's even in his head and in his world, it would be dishonest of him really to go any further. And I think, had Arabella have not called it, I wonder how far they would have got, really. And I think it's such a lovely thing, because it just says, I love love, and I think it's such a great thing to go, yeah, it is. He's just in love with her, and she calls it. Arabella calls it, it's such a great thing that he just doesn't say anything back. I think it's just so. I remember reading it and just going, it's just perfect writing to, to not have Duke have to say it. But what I wanted as an actor and almost as an audience member is I want him to say it. I want that to be out there in the world. And Rachel writes it in such a brilliant way to go, it puts it out without him saying it, and I think that's genius. Somebody else says it, everyone else says it, and you don't see him disagreeing with it or arguing with that. I think it's genius.
My relationship with Eliza is purely one of friendship.
You are in love with her. Unless you can convince me otherwise. Well, I wish you luck. You will need it.
Arabella.
And I say this out of friendship, not malice. Eliza's ambition will outweigh everything. Even her feelings for you. Nothing will ever be enough for her. Certainly not the future you envisage. You can see yourself out.
He doesn't deny it. He doesn't say anything. I mean, is this ultimately the moment where it truly clicks for him, where he has to admit not just to himself, but to admit silently to someone else that he does love her?
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That again, there was so many different ways you could play that. It could be played out, and I think for me, it's just something that he hasn't even admitted to himself. In a way, he just almost can't allow himself to go there mentally, because I think he sees they've been there before. In another one of my favorite scenes at the start of season 2, where they're just like, he knows that she can't. It's just not going to work in this current environment, in the current place that they are, professionally, career-wise, drive-wise. So he sort of can't admit it to himself, and that's the first time someone says it to him. And I think it really penny drops there. And moving forward in season 4, you have to ask yourself, well, how's that going to play out? He's the bull in the china shop. He's the strolls into a room. So we want to see him in that place that if he's admitted it to himself, then he should follow that. So I think it will be interesting to see whether he does, how that plays out, or whether he sort of pulls back on that and bides his time, or whether he's just at a loss with it and has to find something else that fills that space or that place.
There is still a lot about Wellington's past we don't know about, and his early years with Eliza in particular. Is there any chance that Series 4 might answer some of the questions viewers have about those early days together?
I think the viewers are going to be very excited about a lot of things in season 4, but there are some really, really lovely episodes that will hopefully answer a lot of those questions. When I read them, I was like, oh, they're really, really lovely. And it's kind of, we've sort of been drip fed, which I love about Rachel's writing, the way that it's just sort of drip fed through, right up to season 4. Bits about the past. It's not sort of put in there in a big monologue or anything. It's just drip fed, and we start to get this this sort of idea of where they're from, and we get to see a lot of that in season 4. And they're really, really lovely moments.
Has playing Wellington taught you anything about yourself? Do you aspire to have, say, his confidence or swagger?
Oh, good question. I mean, the fact that he does just go in and speak his mind, I like that about him. He's very sure of his position, and he's sure of his place in the world. And I like that. And I like the fact that he challenges authority. I think that those are really great attributes to have, to challenge authority when it's wrong, and to speak up. And to also speak up for others. He will give credit where credit's due, and he will pass over that sort of victory to others happily, even when it goes against them. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for that.
Looking back, was there one specific moment in your life that was where your desire to act crystallized?
Oh, I've got real memories of being in a little cinema, the Odeon, in my hometown, and I going down the little dark corridor into a screen, seeing something. That sort of magical experience for me, going to see Jurassic Park and going to see amazing films in these little dark rooms. I loved that. And that's kind of where I was like, that'd be a cool job, wouldn't it? That'd be a cool thing to do. So I feel very lucky that I do get to do that in some way. Because it's never boring, it's always incredibly fulfilling creatively to sort of go into these characters and to have choices in how they might play, and how they might play it out. And that for me is really exciting.
So not, say, wanting to be Sean Connery in James Bond.
Oh my God. I was the proper Bond geek. Proper Bond geek. And actually I found all my little toys when I was up in Scotland recently with my son. And he took all my like 20-year-old Bond cars and Bond figures, and he broke them all.
Oh, of course.
I was like, oh my goodness. Like that, I cherished them. I looked after them, and he broke them all. But so he's actually, even though he's only 6, I've showed him little bits. Like we've been to the Bond in Motion and all that, and he absolutely loves it. But I think, yeah, that probably was one of my, the Bonds. I was like, Tomorrow Never Dies and all those films, the Pierce Brosnan Bonds were my sort of gateway in. And that was actually my gateway into film. Yeah.
You're married to fellow actor Lisa McGrillis, who I love as Kelly on Mum. I was just talking to Leslie Manville about her in the show recently, a couple weeks ago. You and Lisa have got 2 kids. What would you say if one or both wanted to follow in Mum and Dad's footsteps? Is that something that you would want, or that you would discourage?
No, I would be. I just want them to be happy, and I think that's kind of what every parent wants. And I think I'm in quite a good place of being aware that I didn't know quite what my other options were. I didn't really have any at school, and I saw a lot of friends going to university, or people I was at school with going to university, because they were kind of told to go to university and study something there. And then after a couple of years, they left and they did something else. And I think that I just feel like you're so young, even at 20 or 25 or 30 or 45, if you start doing something, don't put pressure on yourself to go, well, I've decided I'm going to be an actor, or I've decided I want to be, do this, or a plumber, or whatever it is. There's so much movement now, I think, because so many jobs there isn't jobs for life really anymore. So you might as well do something you'd love or you enjoy or you think that you could see yourself doing. And if that doesn't work out or you don't enjoy it as much as you thought you would then, or the lifestyle of it, then you can always kind of shift to something else. That may sound naive, but I think it was different, you know, back then when you had this job for life, and it doesn't feel as restrictive as that now. So yeah.
Stuart Martin, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Jace. It was really lovely.
It's Christmas in February again, and Father Christmas returns to the Dales.
You ready to meet Father Christmas, Eva?
He looks funny.
Right, he coming in or not?
Dad, be nice.
Think she'll be all right?
It might put her off Christmas for good.
Rachel Shenton and Nicholas Ralph return to the podcast February 19th. Masterpiece Studio is hosted by me, Jace Lacob, produced by Nick Anderson, and edited by Robin Bissett. Alicia Baitup is our sound designer. The executive producer of Masterpiece is Suzanne Simpson.